Today is the special day, the day when I finally remembered that my channel actually not called Anime Exposure. But that's the only thing that I made on it so far, so I decided to start to diversify, to make something similar but different. Hi, this is cellupunk and not Anime Exposure. Crazy, I know. I mean, I'm still talking about anime, but it's not randomly picked. I'm a grown man. I can decide what cartoons I'm gonna watch all by myself. I don't need like buttons that generate random numbers or any bullshit like that. I probably shouldn't be so loud talking shit about buttons. You know, maybe they can hear me. I mean, I know it's not probable, I don't know how could they hear me, but once again, I didn't program those buttons, right? The AI did. Maybe they can hear me and they will hear me talk shit about them, and next time I'll do an episode of Anime Exposure, they'll just shove a bunch of hentai in my face. I don't want that, so, you know, better safe than sorry. Random buttons are great, but today I'm going rogue. Today I have unfinished business, and that is something I have to do on my own. In the last video I stumbled upon Marvel anime and talked very passionately and for a very long time about Avengers Confidential, Black Widow and Punisher. So clearly I have a lot of things to say, and I thought, well, I talked about the last Marvel anime, so why won't I talk about the first one? And maybe every other one as well, we'll see about that, but today, just Iron Man in Japan. Let's fucking go.
Be careful what you wish for. Punk, 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 punk.
You dick.
Yes.
So first of all, for everyone who doesn't know what Marvel anime is, or forgot since the last time because the last video came out more than a fucking month ago. In 2009, Marvel partnered with Japanese anime studio Madhouse to produce a series of shows about Marvel characters, where Madhouse will be allowed to do whatever they want with these stories. This initiative was called Marvel Anime, and the first show to come out of it was 2010's Iron Man, which of course is not surprising considering the success of Iron Man movies. Iron Man 2 came out literally 5 months before this show. So it was a fascinating time where this forever B or even C-list character suddenly became a hot commodity. For everyone in the world, Iron Man was new and exciting, so of course this show starts with Tony Stark retiring as Iron Man and moving to Japan. Right. My biggest gripe with Avengers Confidential, Black Widow and Punisher was its plot. The fact that it doesn't really fit both titular characters, and I focused quite a bit on Marjorie Liu as a person that was tasked with breaking the basic story. In the case of Iron Man, the situation is better. The story by credit goes to Warren Ellis, actual comic book writer, not in a sorta kinda type of way. A very talented one too. He actually wrote Iron Man in comics, and also Iron Man comics. Specifically, he wrote a 6-issue story called Extremis that in big part was used as the basis for Iron Man 3. So not a bad choice, but not the best one either. The problem is that the longest entry into his wiki page not about any of his work, but about his allegations of sexual coercion. Yeah. Ellis is a talented writer, but also a bit of a dickhole of a human being, and he was cancelled. But once again, he was responsible only for breaking the basic story, not actual writing. So, as I said in the beginning, Tony Stark is preoccupied with his new project, this Arc Station that was allowed to be built in Japan, so he goes there to supervise it. And this Arc Station is a revolutionary invention. According to Stark, it'll bring us world peace, because it's gonna provide unlimited and free energy forever? So I guess he invented a perpetual motion machine or something? Which is impressive, of course, because, you know, it goes against the laws of thermodynamics, so it's a really impressive feat to pull off. Otherwise, I don't know how anything can generate energy forever and unlimitedly. But, you know, they don't go into any explanation, so just don't think about it, because they certainly didn't. What does matter is the fact that Tony believes that this Arc Station will bring us world peace, so there's no need for Iron Man anymore. Which is several crazy leaps in logic, I'd say, but, you know, Stark is a genius and I'm not, so what do I know? But like a true billionaire in a great tradition of corporate doublespeak, when Tony says, "I'm retiring as Iron Man," what he actually means is that he invented new models of Iron Man armor called Iron Man Dio that he plans to equip the Japanese government with. And that is the goal up until the moment that during the presentation of Stark's plans for Japanese people, first he, while flying in the new armor, after promising to retire, he opens a fucking mask while flying with a high speed through the sky. He was really lucky that there was no, like, a bug or piece of dust in the air on his way, because, you know, he would go blind. And then new armor reports some sort of mistake, malfunctions, and he crashes. But there's a bit of a luck too, because he crashes right next to the reporter Nanami Ota, who writes an article about him, and she gives him a ride home in exchange for an exclusive interview later. On this drive, in a good Tony Stark tradition, he sexually harasses her. That kinda his motto. When he just arrives in Japan and meets Dr. Chika Tanaka, his employee that will help him oversee Arc Station, first thing he says is, "I didn't expect you to be a woman because, you know, women are usually fucking dumb. And you're not just a woman, you're also a hottie, and those are the dumbest ones." I'm paraphrasing, of course, but, you know, the essence is the same. So, yeah, once again, alone in the car with an attractive young woman, he makes his move. In his defense, it's the second time he met Nanami, and the first time she literally launched herself at his dick, so he makes some assumptions. But when she lets him know that she's not interested and he should stop, he literally runs away. The story for the show was created by an alleged sex pest, so keep that in mind, I guess. And I mean, he has business to attend to. He needs to figure out what's wrong with his DO armor, and during the test pilot starts to feel dizzy, screams, grabs his head, falls to his knees, and then his eyes turn red. And that is, of course, internationally recognized sign of either demonic possession or brainwashing, which is kind of the same thing, really. So now, an evil pilot in DO armor breaks out from the test hangar, and Tony, once again, has to put on Iron Man's suit to go and stop him. Retirement didn't last long. But what is even shorter is the fight scene between them, because almost immediately Stark overblasts the brainwashed pilot and he crashes. But then, suddenly, Iron Man is attacked by this freak who's part of the actual villains of the story, an evil organization called Zodiac, and this is Scorpio. Supposedly he's responsible for brainwashing the pilot, but no one explains how that happened and why that's not gonna happen again. No one deals with that at all, really. Because Stark doesn't wait for villainous monologue, he just uses the most powerful weapon he has, Dig Blast, and annihilates Scorpio. But unfortunately, when he comes back to the pilot, the DO armor is missing. And that's the setup for the show. Monster of the Week type of structure with 12 episodes and 12 Zodiac signs. Makes sense. Plus the mystery of who Zodiac are and why they want to stop Tony's plans of theoretical world peace through machines that supposedly somehow do something. And in the second episode we get a little glimpse into Arc Station, because someone, Zodiac, steals a shipment of plutonium and people blame Stark, suggesting that he tried to smuggle it into Japan. He denies that, but he never tells that our reactor simply doesn't run on nuclear energy. He just tells everyone to fuck off. And, well, if it is nuclear energy, then obviously it's neither free nor forever, but I guess we just kind of expected to assume that it isn't, that our reactor runs on some made-up magic bullshit or something? I don't know. Tony is called into the office of Japanese Defense Minister Kuroda for questioning in relation to missing plutonium that was transported on the ship with no security. I'm not joking. What makes it even dumber is that there's literally no evidence to suggest that Stark has anything to do with it. So when entire Japan immediately assumes that he's behind it, I dare to say a little racist? Like, he just moved to the country, and sometime after, coincidentally, some plutonium goes missing with no evidence that lead towards him, but entire country immediately goes, those fucking foreigners move here and start stealing our plutonium. But in defense of this whole setup, two things, right? First one, Stark doesn't help his case, right? There's no point at which he goes, my Arc Station literally doesn't run on nuclear energy. It would make any fucking sense. Or, it's clearly an evil organization called Zodiac that tried to fuck with me for a second episode in a row. No, he just says, somebody must be trying to set me up, I don't know. Very convincing, I know. And Minister Kuroda doesn't trust Tony because he is obviously a villain that secretly works for Zodiac. Like, just look at him. He's always in the shadows and shit. Why should we even pretend like he's not the most villainous looking motherfucker on planet Earth? But nevertheless, Stark has to prove his innocence, so he starts to find missing plutonium. But the only thing he finds is cancer. I mean, the Zodiac agents? Robots? Monsters? I don't fucking know what they are. This guy that goes by Cancer. Tony finds him on a ship from where plutonium was stolen. A bit of action, and then Iron Man starts searching for plutonium thieves. And when he figures out where they are, he drives there. For whatever reason, instead of using his armor and just fly there, whatever. And by a lucky coincidence, he drives by Nanami, so she follows. Second time now they meet each other by accident. What are the odds, right? So, chase through the city ensues, and I just want to remind you that bad guys have plutonium in their car. It's important to remember when you see Tony shooting fucking missiles in them, like, it's bad enough that they're in the middle of a populated city, but also plutonium. And that's when we introduce to another character, Captain Nagato Sakurai, who works under Defense Minister and was tasked with tracking Stark's movement. But when Tony starts shooting missiles in plutonium, Sakurai was like, yo, stop! Meanwhile, Nanami is out there to prove that she's also a menace to society and desperately wants to participate in this chase. So she steals someone's scooter bike and she's like, I'm from the press. And they're like, what? You're not a cop, you can't steal my bike. And she goes, chill the fuck out, I'll bring it back. And immediately goes to run it down the stairs right into oncoming traffic where she crashes into the bad guy's car. And I mean, she stops them, which is good, but it's not your car. And they have plutonium. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Then bad guys are like, shit, we have to go on foot, and they grab the case with the plutonium, but guess what? It actually Nanami's case with the camera that just happens to look exactly the same way. What are the odds, right? So Zodiac's Cancer is chasing after Nanami because now she has plutonium, but Tony stops him, maybe kills him. I still don't know if this monster is like even alive or what. Plutonium brought back, the issue resolved. And if up to this point Zodiac actions were sorta smallish, like brainwashing and stealing nuclear materials, then now they're escalating to some crazy level. Because this time they send Ares, and he can control tornadoes. The setup of this episode is that there's a group of scientists that were working on this technology to control weather, but their work was scrapped and now Japan is hit by a series of mysterious tornadoes that seemingly come out of nowhere. And coincidentally, scientists that worked on this technology are killed in these tornadoes. Iron Man gets involved in trying to stop tornadoes for two reasons, and none of them are he's a superhero that tries to save people. First, his reputation in Japan went to shit. I mean, that'll happen after you're gonna shoot fucking missiles in the middle of a populated city into a car with plutonium in it. And second, it turns out that Dr. Tanaka, that Tony has hots for, is connected to all of the dead scientists. She tries to figure out what's happening by going to her old professor, but this professor is actually crazy, and obviously it's revealed that everything is done by Zodiac, and he sold this weather control technology to them. And yeah, they use tornadoes to perform hits. It's like using a bazooka to kill a mosquito. Meanwhile, Tony is on a full-on attempt to save his public image and decides to help rescue workers to rescue some people without his suit. Because that would have been easier and safer, but not as impressive. Again, he does it all to help his public image. I don't believe for a second that he actually cares about any of these people. Crazy Professor decides to fly into the Oz, and Iron Man arms himself with an AMP that was established in the beginning of the episode to beat the Ares. Which of course works, and that means that Tony could have stopped this from the very start, and he just chose not to, because he wouldn't look as heroic in the eyes of rescue workers and Dr. Tanaka. What a piece of shit. Talking about Tony's looks, I think it's important to discuss this show's presentation. The visual style. As you could see now for some time, it's a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, it has a bit of an old school vibe to it that I like. Character designs are not extremely simplified, faces of every major character are very distinct. But at the same time, there's some weirdness to it. Tony, for example, kinda looks like a devil. Like he just looks evil sometimes, and his face morphs in some bizarre ways. I don't know why, it's not really an issue with other characters. I don't know, maybe it's because he's supposed to be white, and all the other characters are Asians, and so they just draw him a little different, but sometimes he just looks kind of fucking wonky. And that's kind of the case for everything in the show. It almost never looks straight up bad. It just most of the time generally unimpressive, and sometimes sorta kinda weird. They use quite a bit of 3D animation for Iron Man suits, Zodiac monsters, cars, and stuff like that. And I know that there's consensus among animation lovers that 2D is better than 3D, and that animators shouldn't mix shit. And I kinda disagree. In this show, 3D, by the most part, doesn't look terrible, but it's not good either. The problem is that their approach to 3D usage lacks any intentionality, it's just a crutch. Like, it's a show about Iron Man, right? There's a shit ton of futuristic tech, his armor, those monsters, and stuff like that. So if Madhouse would have committed to only use 3D for futuristic tech, while drawing everything else traditionally to visually separate them, it immediately stops being this, oh shit, we don't have enough money and time type of approach to animation, and becomes a stylistic choice, while still allowing you to save money and time on animation. The fact that it looks different becomes a good thing all of a sudden. But instead, sometimes they use 3D, sometimes they use 2D, so they themselves show us all the problems. Like, I don't even need to explain that 3D armor is very poorly blended into environments and really sticks out. I can just show you the 2D armor shot, how it's supposed to look like, and then the 3D one. And there is also stuff that are much easier to pull off in 3D, like crazy camera moves that you can use for flight scenes, or just a general fluidity of animation that action scenes can really benefit from. If you use a lot of 3D, it makes sense to lean into the strengths of it, not just approach it as a traditionally animated cartoon where some shots look like shit. But no, none of that. Like, occasionally there's a well-animated sequence, but most of the time it's just Tony doing pew to defeat his enemies. It's just boring. Also, the voiceover. I watched it with the English dub because it just makes more sense for a Marvel show, and most of it is pretty good. There's Laura Bailey voicing Dr. Tanaka, and her husband Travis Willingham plays Captain Sakurai. Everyone are very competent, but fucking hell, I don't like the voice of Tony. Obviously I don't expect Downey to do it, but this actor just doesn't work for me. He's voiced by Adrian Pizdar, and I have no problems with him in general. Like, Near Dark or Heroes, are you kidding me? Like, he's cool, but not Tony Stark type of cool, you know? Tony needs to sound like he has a lot of dick in his voice, you know? I mean, not in a, like, he needs to kind of sound like an asshole. Not in a farty type of way, just kind of a general, you know what I mean. And Pezdar's voice just doesn't do it for me. Also, his screaming, just fucking bad. I'd prefer someone like Eric Loomis. In part because he just really sounds like RDJ.
S.H.I.E.L.D. got hacked, Fury, and you know it. Those Hydra dreadnoughts are about 2 degrees off your mandroids.
And this show, at times, really tries to lean into MCU. Like, their approach to writing dialogue. Like, I know that MCU dialogue became this kind of a joke, but it didn't yet become a thing in 2010 when the show came out. But fucking hell, Tony's dialogue is just quip on top of a quip, non-stop.
I am Cancer, warrior of the great Zodiac.
What, did you pick that name out of the supervillain handbook?
It's getting a little crowded up here.
Did your mother ever tell you to keep your grabby hands to yourself?
And that gets annoying really fast.
There's something you don't see every day, unless you're me.
The other way they pretend to be MCU is in the 4th episode, where we go deeper into the identity of people running Zodiac, and we do that by going back to the first Iron Man film. Because this episode is one-to-one, shot-to-shot recreation of all of the moments where Tony was in captivity creating his first armor from the film. Although the show is not in MCU, it never was intended to be. And obviously they use Afghanistan-esque setting from the films and comics of the time. And of course, this updated backstory was originated by Warren Ellis in his Extremis book. While in the original comics, and really all of the comics up until that, placed Iron Man's origin in Southeast Asia setting, because originally it was connected to the Vietnam War. I mean, that's why so many Stark's villains are Asian... Stereotype? No. Caricature? No. Inspired. They're Asian-inspired. I mean, the guy that he's in cave with that helped him build this armor and sacrificed himself so Tony could live, called Yinsen Ho, for fuck's sake. And yeah, they changed his design, but no one ever changed his name or explained it here. It's just some random Ho in Afghanistan, I guess. And outside of flashbacks, Tony financed some F1 racing in Japan, and yeah, that's a clear reference to the second Iron Man film. Only here Stark isn't driving, and the actual pilot of his car gets mind-controlled. Wait, again? What the fuck? We're recreating the scenes from first and second movies and fucking repeating plot points from the first episode? The show already ran out of the original story to tell? That'll be kinda pathetic if true, so let's not make any premature judgments. Like, we should really start panicking if they will start to just throw some random fanservice bullshit to distract us from story issues. That's always the best sign of trouble, and so far—
Oh, look, it's Wolverine! He saved Tony from brainwashed pilot.
What I was talking about? I don't remember. Anyway,
the pilot disappears and Iron Man with Wolverine track him down. It turns out that Zodiac made him part cyborg or some shit, and now he's piloting a big robo bull, so his towers.
I've had enough of this bull!
Tony and Logan deal with that. But then Dio Armor shows up and Starks gets in a fight with it, loses, and it's revealed that the person that stole the armor and leads the Zodiac is none other than Yinsen Ho, that supposedly died, but he didn't, he just betrayed Stark. What a hoe.
The biggest threat that Zodiac presents, their greatest strength, is just the fact that you don't know what the rules of engagement are. They start with brainwashing, then stealing nuclear materials, then city-destroying tornadoes, and then again more brainwashing. So you don't know if they're escalating or de-escalating. Next attack could be anything from, I don't know, shoplifting to meteor strike. So no one should relax, especially considering that Age of Aquarius is dawning upon us, but there will be no harmony and understanding. And if you immediately thought, oh, Aquarius, it probably means tsunamis, then you're wrong, because Aquarius actually means pandemic. Because he or she or it—
Aquarius is a space spider that latches itself to a Japanese satellite and uses it to turn everyone's body fluids blue.
How? I have no idea. He just sits in space, does something, and here you go, you piss blue.
Of course, when Japanese people start to randomly vomit inks, everyone immediately go like, it's all Stark's fault. He and his fucking Ark Station turn our insides into blueberries. And the government sorta arrests them all.
And if it was just Tony arrested, then he'd probably be like,
you wanna see more blue body fluids? Well then suck my dick, you're not arresting me.
But because there was also Dr. Tanaka, a reasonable person, she goes,
hey, we have nothing to do with it, we have proof, you can check it. But because the military was sent there by the Minister of Defense, who is clearly an evil guy that works for Zodiac, like just look at him, can we stop pretending? They ignore all the requests. And that goes up until the point when Captain Sakurai comes in and asks for Tony's help.
Because they reviewed the footage of Satellite and they found something weird. They were like
here's a before image, and here's after, and I'm pretty sure something is different, right? Like something's changed. Like I can't put my finger on it exactly, but they're not the same picture, I'm pretty sure. So Iron Man flies into the cosmos to fight Satellite humping space spider. He, of course, wins without much of an issue. The coolest parts of the episode is the look of Tony's armor with the space coating on it. White and gold looks sick. And final shots of the episode with Iron Man sitting on a satellite and then jumping towards Earth. Pretty rad stuff.
The random attack strategy of Zodiac continues. The human virus didn't work. What about computer one?
This time the bad guy is Pius's, and any sort of branding with Zodiac signs at this point is just out of the window. Like, he just had a fish tank when he was a kid, that's it.
And the big difference this time is they're actually giving us the villain's backstory.
He was a sickly kid whose mom was a coder that worked on antivirus software, but then she died and he was recruited by Ho to start making viruses for Zodiac.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's something, so I don't have to sit and guess like,
is this thing that Tony just dick blasted to death even human, or what? Like the space spider had a mom too? Like how does this shit works? Anyway, Biases puts a virus into Stark's system, so all his Dalek looking and R2-D2 sounding cleaning droids rebel against her programming. And judging by the internationally recognized glowing red eyes, you'd think that they're evil. But no, it's more symbolic of Red Light District, because R2 Daleks realize that they don't want to be cleaning bots, they want to be sex bots. So they start driving around like, ejaculate, ejaculate, trying to jerk everyone off. But all the horny Roombas around just make people uncomfortable, so droids, after feeling rejected, decide to crash all the humans' kneecaps to shit. I mean, they still cleaning droids, they have no weapons. And they're not difficult to beat, like, Tony doesn't even need his Iron Man suit, he just needs like an iron stick. Then Biases goes to the next step of his plan and uses his virus to turn the AC down in the Stark's building. Once again, Zodiac's rules of engagements are all over the place, like here's a tornado and here's a jerk bot, now deal with the pandemic, and now there's gonna be really cold in your office. And then the virus spreads all over the city. It randomly switches lights and makes ATMs spit money, and at this point Tony goes, "No, not the money, my sweet, sweet money, boys shouldn't have them," and downloads a virus into his own suit for whatever reason. It's not like it solves anything. But then there's like a lot of spam notifications in his visor or some shit, so he cannot fly properly and crashes in all of the buildings and then into the ground right next to Nanami. What are the odds? Basically, the virus tries to brainwash Stark, so they start a battle of wills, this time in the cyberspace. I'm not making this up, and this battle of wills looks like punching the cyber shark. Yeah, that's an all-encompassing visual find that is very fitting for the show and for this episode, and not totally random at all. Fuck jumping the shark, let's punch the shark. But during the punch-out with the cyber shark, Biases realizes that Hall lied to him. He said that Stark is a bad guy that loves to make his weapons, but Tony from the beginning was saying that he's all about world peace now. Still not sure how he's gonna achieve it, but whatever. So Biases sees that Iron Man is much more beautiful on the inside than he thought. Because on the inside in cyberspace he's actually animated in 2D, so he just looks much better. So our bad guy decides to give up. He deletes the virus and the cyber shark explodes? And on his way from cyberspace battle, Tony is attacked by two cancer robots. Still don't know what they are, no one explains it, and yeah, Zodiac doesn't even send original enemies anymore, we have repeats. But this time there's two of them, and Stark is weakened by Cyber Shark, and this could have been dangerous, but it isn't, because the Japanese government, after all the shit that transpired with Dio armor, was like, that went well, let's build our own. So they did. And now Tony is saved by Captain Sakurai in his own armor. After a difficult day, Tony decides to relax and drink a glass of cold milk under the rain. That's fucked up. That's just some sick shit. But his perversions are interrupted by Dr. Tanaka, who came to him at night. And when Stark's dick pulls him to the door to let her in, they both get kidnapped. Meanwhile, Nanami and her photographer drive on the road from an interview, and Tony's car passes them. What are the odds? So they decide to follow and end up in the docks, where they are attacked by Scorpio, and yes, we continue to reuse enemies. But don't worry, Nanami is fine, because the show doesn't have enough money to spend on a good car crash. So they just flip, and there's a close-up of a wheel with some like off-screen dialogue, so nothing serious happened. But they lost Stark. And Tony wakes up on a trash island with Tanaka. He doesn't have the reactor thingy in his chest, instead of he plugged into a regular battery that is rapidly running out of energy. And of course he meets Ho, that says, I know that all that beast talk is bullshit and you steal war profiteering weapon manufacturers, so come work for Zodiac and I will give you your reactor back. To which Tony says, you dick. So Ho gives him 24 hours to rethink it before that battery runs out.
So, of course, Stark and Tanaka try to escape. They make a raft out of trash, but it gets sinked by Scorpio that just fucking chills underwater. So they drown and Tony's battery short circuits and he dies. No. They just get washed on shore and start to tinker on something else. While on the mainland, Nanami teams up with Sakurai and they start searching for missing scientists. But someone else is searching for them. On the island, Scorpio is all washed now and goes to find Stark and Tanaka. And when he does, he immediately shoots rockets at them. I thought the plan was to give Stark 24 hours to think about it, but fuck it, kill him, I guess. Only it turns out that this is just a hologram because Tanaka's phone apparently can double as a hologram generator. Sure, more nonsense, why not? And chase begins. Scorpio is so angry that he turns into the ugliest and most poorly animated 3D model in the show, and Tanaka proves that she's not so smart, after all, because she insists to run on heels through this island and of course she sprains her ankle and goes into this hole.
Leave me, Tony. I'm not gonna make it. I'm only gonna slow you down, so you should save yourself.
To which he says that he needs her to make a world without violence, and that's a quote. And I have questions. First of all, what the fuck that even means? Second, how are we getting that? And third, how any of Tony's actions in the show correlate with this goal. How moving to Japan and making EMPs or trying to fly into space leads us towards a world without violence. Please explain. Anyway, here's my favorite moment in the show.
Being close to you, I share in something important.
Well, there's a first. Never heard you talk about yourself before. And I'd love to hear more sometime. But right now, giant bug.
Tony is ready to get rid of the Scorpio. He's on this hill with a makeshift bazooka, and Ho has a full-on hate boner. He's like,
Yes, I knew that you still love making weapons, you're a hypocrite bitch!
But it turns out that it was just a signal flare to attract Sakurai that was flying by right at that moment. For the love of God, somebody please tell me, what are the odds? So Scorpio gets dealt with again, and Tony runs to find Ho, who's already in a Dio armor ready to dip. But first he gives the reactor back and says that it was all just a test and Zodiac will be back. So Tony and Tanaka wait for the rescue ship on the beach and suck faces. And what happens when a man and woman love each other very much? They have a kid. So Tony drives on the road and accidentally runs into this girl named Aki who ran away from Zodiac. Does anybody know? What are the odds? His entirety of Japan is just a one fucking street where everyone just constantly run into each other. So Stark now has a kid to take care of, but she's not just a kid. She has telekinetic abilities, which means that she can turn Tony's life into a shit show just by snapping her fingers. Which she does, and I think it's a metaphor for parenting or something. She fucks everything to such a degree that it kind of feels that this is the new plan of attack by Zodiac. Tony dealt with fucking tornadoes and pandemic, so let's see how it's gonna go against an annoying kid. But no, it turns out that Aki actually ran away from Zodiac. And she's the second antagonist of the show, I wouldn't call her a villain, with an actual backstory. Zodiac experimented on her and used her telekinetic abilities to power their robot Virgo. And Virgo is just a huge flying head with tentacles. Zodiac has no brand identity at this point. Sakurai takes Aki in custody to study her, and Virgo head comes after the girl. But the problem is, when you attack the head, Aki also feels pain, and if you destroy it, she might die. So Stark actually has to protect it from Sakurai and the Japanese military. I'm sure it's gonna really help his public image. But then Virgo tries to kill Tony, and Aki, to save him, fully fuses with the head. And at this point I was really excited, because it looked like it's gonna be the first feel-bad ending to an episode. Just some sad dramatic shit, you know, like Aki is lost, and now Tony has to destroy the Virgo robot, but by doing that he also kills Aki. Like, that would be pretty sad and also cool, but no. That's too much to hope for. So Tony just opens the fucking head, pulls the kid out, and that's the end of that. She lost her powers and memory, so now she can just be a regular kid, and Tony doesn't have to take care of shit. Yeah, they could have had a cool ending, and they ended up with a full cop-out ending. Great. And that's very much on beat for the show, because they have many opportunities to have any level of substance to it, and time after time they choose to do literally anything except that. For example, the next episode is a big Hall flashback that goes into his reasoning and motivation, and through that into the themes of the show. After supposedly sacrificing himself to help Tony escape the cave, he actually survived and was saved and nursed back to health by locals in whatever the fuck that place might be, they don't specify. So Ho was happy living a simple farm life. He even fell in love with a woman that saved him, but she already had a fiance. Fell in love with an almost married woman. Ho is such a Ho. But he didn't do anything, just accepted life in a friend zone. But what he should have been concerned with is a life in a war zone, because during the wedding there was a helicopter strike and everyone in the village were killed except for Ho. And the helicopters were made by Stark Industries. And that's of course just a horrible, tragic coincidence. Like, yeah, sure, when they were in the cave, Tony promised to Ho that he will change his ways and stop making weapons. He can't expect Stark to get rid of all the stuff that he made before that was already sold to someone. That's just stupid. But that's actually Ho's main trait in the show. He's so fucking stupid. Immediately after bombing, he gets approached by the leader of Zodiac, which is not suspicious even a little, sure. And he's like, first of all, I am not Minister Kuroda, and second, it's all Stark's fault. Like, he made you a promise of no more weapons, but look at that, look what happened here. You, Mr. Ho, a pacifist, should join me and go and kill this fucking bitch for a greater good. And like, how Zodiac knew that that promise was made in that cave, how they knew that Ho is still alive. Now Ho's main thing is that weapons are bad and Stark is bad, and we're gonna deal with all that by stealing plutonium again. And this is where the entire messaging of the show just falls apart. Tony goes to fight Ho and retrieve plutonium. And mid-battle they go into this debate of such levels of stupidity that honestly it should be live streamed for 6 hours on YouTube and Twitch. Ho's argument is weapons are bad, and Tony is a lying piece of shit for making this armor because it's a weapon of mass destruction, and now Ho will use it, and plutonium. He will use these weapons to kill and scare people into submission and prove once and for all that weapons are bad. And Tony retorts with the most American argument that ever existed. That it's actually not weapons that bad, it's just people that use them. And it's totally reasonable and even necessary to have a flying, dig blasting armor as long as it's in responsible hands. So basically, don't you even fucking dare touch my assault rifle or I'll fucking shoot you type of argumentation. And this is just ridiculous because Tony's entire motivation in the show from very beginning was to bring world peace, right? Make world without violence. In the beginning of this very episode, he finally gave the interview to Nanami that he promised, where he says that he wants to help the world to get rid of weapons.
We've been blessed with a great opportunity. An opportunity to make peace a reality. But how? By creating a world without weapons.
There's no plans of actions, so it all sounds like very empty, but at very least he made an arc reactor to prevent future possibilities of any wars for energy resources and stuff like that. Like in the first episode he plans to retire as Iron Man, and he didn't only because of the Zodiac. So there is no reason for Stark to argue with Ho. He should be like, fuck yeah, weapons are bad, that's why I want to get rid of them, and I'm working on holding that promise I made you. And Ho is being an idiot, obviously. You can make an argument that he just blinded by grief, so that's why there's not much of a logic in his actions. But people in the world lose someone all the time, and they don't automatically become just dysfunctional maniacs that say one thing and do something completely opposite. So it's pretty hard to empathize with him. Maybe one could say that he's actually a hypocrite, you know, claims that he's against weapons but has no problem with using them. He literally made his own versions of Iron Man armor that he painted in camo. Like, how much more obvious can one be? But I'd still say that all these logical fallacies point less towards him being a hypocrite and more towards him being just very fucking stupid, because there's several other pieces of evidence of him just doing the dumbest things in the world right in this very episode. Like, he beats Iron Man twice in the span of one episode, and the first time Tony is lying at his feet, beaten, and he's like, I don't have time to actually kill you, so Zodiac Sagittarius, that doesn't even have a fucking bow, by the way, will do it for me. And Stark reacts to that appropriately.
A robot centaur. How scary.
And then, at the end of the episode, after a boring fight with a backdrop of vomit-looking sky, he beats Tony again, and this time Ho decides to finish him off by throwing him into the river. Like, you see what I'm saying, right? He's just stupid. Like, fucking snap his neck, or blast him with a blasty thing, or, I don't know, tear his reactor out of his chest at least so he would die by himself. But no, none of that, so... Of course, Tony survives. But he's presumed dead, so Ho takes over Stark's Ark Station and takes in hostage everyone who works there, plus Nanami with her photographer that just happened to be there. Did anyone figure out the odds? Because they seem to be crazy. And our elf-looking dumbass makes his demands and explains Zodiac plans. Through acts of terrorism, they're gonna force the world, war country at the time I guess, to disarm, starting with Japan. Who in their right mind would start with Japan? And why? I have no idea, but okay. So if they're not gonna send out all the American soldiers and get rid of their own army, Ho will blow up Arc Reactor and that will erase Japan from the face of the world. So yeah, that definitely tracks with his beliefs that all weapons are bad. Basically, weapons are bad, so if you have any, I'll fucking shoot you in the face. Meanwhile, it turns out that Stark was saved by Sakurai, and they contact Tanaka inside of the station. Tanaka and Nanami team up to retrieve Tony's armor and send it to him so he could fight Ho. And they do that through the power of cutting away. One moment, they're in front of a guarded room where the armor is stored, and they're like, what are we going to do? Then fade to black, fade back in, and it's already done. It was barely an inconvenience, some might say. Then they cut to Tony, who's with Sakurai being chased by Sagittarius, and Stark gets a call from Nanami, who's already escaped from the building full of terrorists and ready to deliver armor. I guess the moral is that cutaways are the most powerful weapon known to man, and the fuck Zodiac is gonna do about that. By the way, it's not the first time when some weird amateur shit like that happens in the show. The first episode in particular has a very bizarre editing style with constant fades in and out of every scene, and then they sometimes cut to dialogue scenes in the middle of action, which kills the rhythm of both. So Stark puts his armor and blasts Sagittarius away. I mean, he doesn't even have a bow, he's not really a threat, and then goes to fight Ho again. And this time, nothing changes. And Tony loses, but Zodiac actually decides to betray Ho. I guess he served his purpose, whatever that purpose might be. So all the Kamo armors attack him and they mutually destroy each other. And before Ho dies, he finally says to Tony, I guess I was pretty fucking stupid and all my actions did make one lick of sense. Yeah, sorry about that. And now we go into the endgame, 2 final episodes. After Ho died, I guess all the terrorists just left Stark's building, so now only Minister Kuroda waits there for Tony. And he says that apparently there's a rumor that Stark is involved with Zodiac. You know, the only guy that was fighting them this entire show is actually their secret agent. Yeah, that makes sense, that tracks. So now Sakurai arrests Tony for further investigation, but all they do is just have a sword fight. Meanwhile, it turns out that Dr. Tanaka is brainwashed, and she overloads Arc Reactor. And brainwashed Japanese fighter jet pilots shoot the shit out of DT building, which is like a Japanese senate, I guess. And Zodiac operatives take a bunch of politicians and military people hostage, and they demand that Stark, their comrade, should be set free. Load of shit, of course, and that's obvious to everyone except for Sakurai. And he's like, the fuck is that, dude? I thought you said you're not with them. And then Minister Kuroda calls Sakurai and orders to execute Tony. And Sakurai doesn't say, you're obviously evil and work for Zodiac. I'm not gonna do that. No, he goes, it's kinda illegal, Minister, so I don't know if that's the best course of action. You sure? And Starks decide to not put his life in the hands of this imbecile and escapes. So Sakurai is like, that's it, I'm killing the fuck out of him. They both go to suit up, but on the way there, Tony gets a call from Tanaka, who's like,
Tony, I think I did a little bit of an oopsie poopsie. Pretty sure I was brainwashed and sent reactor into meltdown, so it's about to explode and destroy entirety of Japan, so do with this information what you will.
But Stark has no time for nonsense like that. He has Sakurai to fight. They start duking it out in the sky and on the baseball stadium up until the point that they are both attacked by Zodiac operative Gemini. And Iron Man saves Sakurai's life, and Tony goes, dude, think about it. Why would I fight Zodiac for the entire season of the anime show with them kidnapping me and shit if I actually work for them? And Sakurai's like,
yeah, that doesn't make much of a sense actually when I think about it. You know, it's just like some shitty writer felt the need to manufacture some fake conflict for the penultimate episode of the TV show, so the stakes would feel higher, but they don't, because it's stupid.
So Tony stays to fight Gemini, and Sakurai flies to track the base of Zodiac by the energy siphon from the Arc Station. And once he arrives there, he finds that the leader of Zodiac... Man, this is just some crazy shit, so you better sit down or you might fall.
Is Minister Kuroda.
No, it can't be! Impossible!
No way, what? I didn't see that coming from literally the first shot of him that was in this show. That's just nuts. Kuroda has his own armor, and he's bigger than Sakurai's, so Kuroda kills him. And the last thing that Sakurai manages to do before he dies is to call Tony, who just finished the fight with Gemini that ended in a draw, and say that Kuroda is the bad guy. I still can't believe this. And he, with the help of military, takes over Japan and declares martial law. While Stark does the most important thing in this situation, goes to talk to his girlfriend. I mean, she feels a little sad, you know, she was brainwashed and betrayed everyone. Like every second character in this fucking series, just get over it. And then the show goes full Michael Bay. What's the best way to end this scene?
Just blow some shit up, I don't know.
That was Kuroda. He blew up US military base, and now he comes here to blow Tony's brains. Because it's revealed that Tanaka wasn't just brainwashed by Zodiac, she's actually one of their operatives. She's Gemini. So after a genuinely pretty cool transformation scene where Laura Bailey just killed it on voiceover, Gemini, Tanaka, and Iron Man start to fight, while Nanami and her photographer were driving by and saw this fight begin. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the question. Were there any odds of them not ending up right in the middle of the action by pure accident? Because I don't think so. Of course, Tony doesn't want to hurt Tanaka and tries to break her out of the mind control, so in an attempt to subdue her, he pinned her to the ground and started to plead with her like, I don't want to fight you, even though you're in the perfect position for my patented dig blast. But she doesn't wait for that and penetrates herself with, I don't know what that is, hair? Tail? And don't even ask me how this design relates in any way to the Gemini star sign. I have no idea. And also, how she stabbed herself, like geometrically. He was on top of... whatever, man. So she's dying, and Stark's sad. She's like, don't you dare to die. I'm your boss, and I prohibit you from dying. If you die, I'll fire you. We didn't even let HR know that we're dating. I'll probably be in so much trouble if they do. I'll probably be cancelled. So maybe you should die. It'll make stuff easier, actually. I'm so confused and conflicted right now, fuck! And right before Tony would snap Tanaka's neck, Nanami arrives, and so he drops this half-dead, half-cyborg in the hands of this girl that he kinda sorta knows, and flies the fuck away to fight his final battle with Kuroda. And that battle is pretty boring, actually. It's not all that impressive. But Tanaka is not dead. Yet. And as her final action, as the last thing she does, she wants to help Tony. So Nanami drugs this moribund Power Ranger to the arc reactor so she could do a lot of made-up
pseudoscience-y bullshit, like plug herself into computer and digitize her mind or redirect energy from arc reactor into Stark's armor somehow, and that doesn't just like fries his armor but makes him actually really powerful. So he and Kuroda has a final blast off that Tony wins, of course. 1 month later, Stark finally finished his arc station, and sure, it provides endless energy for all, and there's not going to be any more war for energy resources and stuff like that, but it also shoots 3 skybeams. And that's the most important feature if you ask me, because that's how we know it was made by Marvel. It ends with a skybeam. And now we finally can have world peace, because good guys killed all the bad guys. Happy end? Yeah, so if you haven't guessed yet, I don't really like this show. I think it's pretty bad. The worst part about it, I mean, outside of it being just generally not very good, is that they actually had some potential in it, like on a concept level, that was fully unrealized. First of all, I don't think that any stories have to deliver any messages or teach us any valuable lessons. I don't think that's required. I said it in previous videos, but I will repeat it. I love crime genre and I love horror. Those are my favorite types of stories. Partially because they are willing to show the ugliness of the world and fully comfortable with making you uncomfortable. They don't really bother with like morality lessons or anything like that. So I don't expect a movie or a show to teach me anything, but when they attempt to, I expect the lesson to be at least somewhat competent. The show obviously has a lot to say about world peace and violence and the role of weapons and all. No, you know what? No, scratch that. It doesn't have a lot to say. It just says it a lot. Just time and time again it repeats the same empty statements to such a level that even if you agree with what is being stated, it still gets really annoying. I never thought that there will be a moment in my life when I hear someone advocate for world peace and I go, shut the fuck up already. But it's kinda what the show does. And what makes these fatuous statements even worse is that this particular show tries to deliver them. I don't have an issue with action movies or stories, and I don't have a problem with violence and storytelling, right? I'm no Jan.
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
because
a little
it's so
of it?
much fun, Jan.
Really?
Get it?
But I do think that if you make a show that is focused on action, and that is one of the main selling points, it's really fucking weird when your main character starts to advocate for a world without violence. It makes this show feel very hypocritical. Like, yeah, they talk all kumbaya and shit, but 90% of the episodes end with Tony obliterating his enemies. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Stark's just a hypocrite. I mean, he's a billionaire in the end of the day. That wouldn't be that surprising. But in the show, it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like they're trying to make that point. It just feels extremely poorly written. It feels hollow. And the most annoying part about it all is that creators knew how to fix this issue. I mean, they did in a couple of episodes, because what's the show's really about? Basically, it's a show about the idea that elites, richest of the rich 1%ers, have a moral duty to use their fortunes for the betterment of the world. That's what Tony does through the show, in a very silly and cartoony way, yes, with creating this machine that will make all the energy for everyone, but it is a cartoon, so what do you expect? This is what the show is about, and that's supposed to be the focus of it. Not just episode after episode of fighting faceless Zodiac robots, but giving them faces and actual names and backstories, with Tony trying to help them, not kill them. Not always successfully, of course, he'd fail sometimes, but he'd always try. I mean, some of the best episodes of the show, Hacker episode and the Little Girl episode, are best because of that. Not because they're particularly good, but because at least they do something different and don't feel false. But more than that, what really confuses me about this show is that this is this show. I was expecting to forgive so many things beforehand, because I thought, well, it's an experiment, right? Superhero anime. Marvel and Madhouse decided to just try a thing. Even if they're failed, even if there wasn't like that successful, I at least can respect the attempt. But no, it's not an experiment. It's actually the most Western show that it could have been. Nothing about it screams, says, or even whispers anime. The setting doesn't really look like Japan.
And they don't use any shonen tropes that, you know, in general could have been annoying, but in this case would have been endearing.
It feels as much of an anime as DC's straight-for-VOD cartoons that they make adapting their comics. But those ones are not even produced in Japan by actual anime studios. They are often animated in Korea and just have like a generalized anime look.
But this is the level when the Iron Man show sits. It's just kinda, sorta anime-ish. Like, it's Iron Man anime. I expected just a full-on mecha madness with huge robots and monsters. I mean, I guess I just expected Pacific Rim. But fuck yeah, give me Pacific Rim with Iron Man over this bullshit any day of the week.
They establish Zodiac as villains, and they are actual bad guys from comics, but here they are very different, because the show has its own continuity and it's not connected to anything. That was designed to free Madhouse's hands.
And okay, so I'm not even gonna go into this whole, like, they established Zodiac-based villains, and there's 12 signs of Zodiac, and there's 12 episodes, and there's only 9 signs represented through monsters. I'm not even gonna go into that. The show wasn't competently made. I think I expressed that enough. But they didn't even use Japanese Zodiac.
Like, Japan has its own star signs, why not use them?
It's not like Zodiac here is a specifically Western group. Only non-Japanese member of Zodiac in the show is Ho. And I mean, we don't even know what his ethnicity is, right? Because they went with this Middle Eastern kidnapping background for no reason, again. But if it would have been Japanese Zodiac, then plot could have been that they're actually against Western influence on Japan. And Stark, with this production that he brought to Japan, would be kind of personification of that, right? That he'd symbolize everything they go against, and that would be a reason for conflict.
And maybe the big reveal would be that Japanese Zodiac group is actually run not by obviously evil minister, you do that in episode 5 tops, but by Mandarin, Iron Man arch nemesis, who's of course Chinese, in reference to the fact that Japanese Zodiac signs are based on Chinese ones. So this Zodiac group that poses as Japan nationalists are actually run by Chinese bad guy.
Why am I effortlessly pitching a better show than people that were paid to do that? That's just stupid. Just like this entire series. And that's what the show really is. It's stupid. It's not even infuriatingly bad. It doesn't make me mad or anything. It just makes me think, why this? Why did you make it like this? And who's this for? And I guess that is the question that I'll also have to ask myself. Who's this for? This video, I mean. Is there an audience for it? I don't know, I guess we'll see. If you consider yourself to be an audience for this video, then like, leave a comment, subscribe, and ring that bell, because guess what, buddy? You're in luck. There's 4 more Marvel animes to talk about. And if you're not, then, well, it sucks to be you, because that's what we're gonna do for a bit here. We're diversifying. Next time, I can actually announce what I'm gonna do next time. I actually know it. That's pretty exciting. So get ready to snicked, because next time we're gonna talk about Wolverine. And for now, thank you, fuck you, and bye.